What's going on, champs and champions? It's FireMonkey here, and for some reason, the exact same day that Epic Games decides, alright, you know what, our break's going to end, all the employees are coming back to the office, starting to work on Fortnite once again, after their 2-week break, seems to be the exact same time that banger news topics start to just drop out of nowhere, right? So recently, it was brought to my attention that there was a supposedly supposed to be private little, professional post about Fortnite concept art that was released, and with it, it was like one of those things where if you go to the website, normally it's password protected, right? But if you were to go to Google or something, right, search for one of the characters in the actual post of all the concept art, you could just load into it without a password. If you were to even go to the website's personal tab and you were going to go over and just switch over to the professional tab afterwards, suddenly no password, right? It was one of those things that we weren't ever even supposed to see, but because of some small little technical issues here and there, we actually did get them revealed to us. Now, what was so crazy about this? It's oh my god, FireMonkey really concept art? That is insane! Sarcastically or whatever. Well, one thing that actually got revealed was some skins that never even ended up releasing in the game, including what appears to be a chimera version of the Origin. Now, this outfit, as you can see on screen right now, is called the General, and it was a very, very interesting outfit design that when you look at it, you're like, okay, it has a name, it has a whole entire, really unique aesthetic going on with it and everything else, and it looks like, The Last Reality version of the Origin, or a member of the Seven that would have just been super cool to have in the game, right? It was one of those things that we saw and we were like, okay, that is a little interesting, right? Just to pop out of nowhere, right? Just a random news drop. The General exists, the character, and it matches the whole entire Seven naming scheme of the Foundation, the Visitor, the Origin, all those stuff, the Scientist, everything else, and it was just very weird to see. But it wasn't just this image, right? We also had this one as well, which showed a lot more of the designs and everything, right? And can I just say that I'm surprised that this never did end up releasing. Now, of course, when it comes to stuff with Epic Games, there's a lot of concept art that, gets reworked, changed around, everything else during the early development cycles and everything, and it's something that, would make sense that it's okay, this isn't going to stay around forever, but at the same time, it is still something where I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I would have so loved to see this in the game, especially with what potential storyline implications it could have had. This would have been a super sick skin to see in the game. Now, before I go ahead and go back to the gameplay cam, I will go ahead and show you guys this face right here, so you see all the faces as a part of the collaboration. But yeah, we had the General leaked, and it wasn't just the General, right? We had some other non, storyline based skins that got leaked as well through this whole entire concept art thing, and it was very interesting to see because one, who doesn't love seeing concept art for some of their favorite skins, but two, who doesn't love to see other skins that were supposed to come to the game but never ended up releasing, just casually having, the concept art dropped with a name to it, right? It wasn't just oh, here's concept art, nothing else, blip bloop, right? No, it had a name associated with it, right? So it was they definitely got somewhere on the drawing board with this whole entire character design, even though it's never actually been released in the game. And my theory is, maybe in the season where we got Chimera, as one of those actual characters they were able to customize and unlock throughout the season, what if the General was supposed to be this Chimera boss or whatever, right? It was supposed to be the main antagonist or, the main enemy or whatever of that season. It could have been a possibility, right? And it would make sense considering, as we mentioned by this image, if you look over there on the right side of the image, it has all those different Chimera themed logos on it. And they could play that into the storyline in so many different ways. They could have been oh, this is one of the 7 members who were rejected by the 7 or whatever after they got infected by Chimera or something along those lines, right? They could have done really anything with it and it would have made sense. But, at the end of the day, we never ended up getting it in the game, but it exists in the Epic Games, content archive in a way, I guess you would call it, right? It exists in that archive where anyone at Epic Games can kind of look at it, revisit it in the future, and maybe they could release it as a storyline character later down the line. Maybe they could just release it as, oh hey, this is an item shop skin, looks pretty cool, pick it up, right? But I really think that it could have had some very interesting storyline implications if it was to ever had it originally released, and I thought I'd share it with you guys because it's one of those things that, you don't get to see every day. It's not every day that, you're just casually browsing online and then all of a sudden, boom, scrapped Fortnite character that could have been really cool to see in the game, right? And when I posted on Twitter, it was there was a huge amount of responses just being this is super cool, why didn't we get this in the game, right? There's no one I really sell it, being like, oh, well, that's, you know, whatever. But I think it's because there's a lot of people out there, right, who still really want to have our little, like, storyline going in the game, right? With Epic Games having a focus on UEFN and everything else recently, they haven't really had a focus on the storyline in quite some time, and I feel like, you know, definitely in the community, having that whole entire storyline themed focus is a big part of everything that people would absolutely love to see, and seeing a character that could have been a part of the storyline just makes everyone hopeful in a way, being like, okay, so this is something that we could have gotten in the game. You know, we didn't end up getting it, of course, but it could have been something that could have had, you know, major storyline implications. It could have been really cool to see how it affected everything going on. And is that no, that's my teammate. Okay, then. But it could have been really cool to see how this character could have played into the storyline as a whole and changed different parts of it and everything else. But of course, you really just kind of got to wait and see what ends up happening with all of that, right? Does this character ever make it out of the content vault? Does this character ever just, like, you know, get released as even a skin in the game, right? Does anything like that happen? Or is this character just going to be something that we only ever know of from an accidental leak that happened online? Now, once again, the way that this happened, right? The way that we got over like 40 images of different like concept art and everything else for different characters and everything was because someone was working on their like ArtStation page, right? And ArtStation is a page where you just kind of show off your artwork and everything else. And they went ahead and had a whole entire section dedicated to professional, and then one for environments, and then another one for personal work, right? And if you clicked on the professional tab on this artist's website, which is Matt Lau, if you were curious who made the art you just saw, then it would be like, oh, this is password protected. You're going to need a password to view it. However, if you went to the artist's page, right, and you found an image from, for example, Google of one of the concept arts from the page, well, one, that would bypass it instantly because, you know, it was archived on Google. It was just right there for anyone to see. But two, if you went to the page's like personal tab, for example, right? So you go ahead and go over to the personal section of the page, and then you kind of just go with it that way. And we actually managed to do damage with explosives. But can I just hurt myself with the explosives and have it count? But if you went to the like professional page from the personal tab or anything like that, it would have still directed you to the page, but without a password restriction or anything like that. So it was a very odd restriction where it was like, hey, you need a password unless you just find the page from one of the other pages on the exact same website, or unless you find an image from Google. So it's like, you need a password unless you ask nicely to be let in, right? It was kind of one of those situations that we really kind of dumb it down in a way. So it was a little bit of an oddity that we probably won't see happen again for a long time, but it was still an oddity that, you know, was very fun to see, and it even, you know, gave us some extra content, because hearing about the general, right, potential another 7 member just is very interesting to see, especially when it could have, you know, played into the lore a lot more, when it could have, you know, had been an enemy of the 7, it could have been related to the last reality, it could have, you know, expanded on the Chimera even, and could have just made those characters have a lot more, you know, like, flesh to them, other than just, hey, this is a collectible alien, right? It would have been very interesting. But we got what we got, and that is what the story has wrote for us. So we really just kind of got to wait and see what ends up happening as we go through with the rest of the Fortnite season. But with that said, hope you champs and champions enjoyed today's video. I guess this is a little bit of a bonus topic. I could talk about some of the other concept art that got shown. So let me go ahead and grab that. So firstly, another storyline related character for the concept art I could talk about is the Cube Queen, because we had a lot of art about this. So look at this, right? This is super different from the Cube Queen that we know and have in the game today, because it's more of a human version. You can see how many different like styles they were working on for the Cube Queen. They just really were going all out on trying to make this character, and they were thinking and tinkering with so many different ideas that it really leaves us in a spot where it was like, imagine if one of these were what we ended up getting, right? Imagine if, like, you know, for example, the middle character or whatever was the version of Cube Queen we ended up getting today, but it wasn't just those designs, right? No, because we also have these designs right here, which showcase different, even like headgear and everything for the Cube Queen, and it's just so wild to see, right? It's so just crazy that we're having all these different designs and everything else being worked on and being shown to us for a character that, you know, was a major story implication and everything else, because we're sitting here and we're like, the way that the character could have looked, the way we could have seen this character could have been so different than how we actually see this character today, right? It could have just been a completely different madhouse of stuff that we never even would have seen any other way. But, you know, I think it's really cool that we were able to actually see this concept art, even if it was by a mistake, because it allows us to kind of theorize and make our own headcanons over what could have been when it came to Fortnite. Now, as one little final topic here, you know, a little bit of a bonus, I'm just going to show this off because I think it's funny. Venom was Jonesy. The original Chapter 2 Season 4 Venom, right? I think it was Chapter 2 Season 4. Let me look down here. Yep. The Marvel Season Venom that we don't have a face of was supposed to be Jonesy, right? It was supposed to be Jonesy. That's all we gotta go on. Of course, it's a concept art. Concept art doesn't mean that would have actually been Jonesy in the game, but in the official version of, you know, the concept art for Venom, Jonesy was Eddie Brock, at least in Chapter 2 Season 4. And I think that's pretty funny, right? Just knowing that Venom could have been Jonesy in that season. Imagine just like having like an unmasked or like an emote variant for that version of Venom that just reveals that the Venom that we were was actually just Fortnite Jonesy. I just think it's weird, right? I know I repeated that like 5,000 times, like, it's Jonesy, it's Jonesy, it's Jonesy, but it still is just kind of funny to think about, right? With that said, however, I hope you champs and champions enjoyed today's YouTube video and got you speculating on tons of cool little concept art things, especially in the land of Fortnite, because, I mean, you know, it's not every day that this is going to happen, and not every day that we get to see characters and, you know, concept art for stuff that we never even knew we would have ever seen the concept art for, so it's been a fun little journey. Now, of course, after making the tweet and everything showcasing all the art, the actual post that had all the Fortnite art on it got taken down. However, I went ahead and archived it all on my computer so I could make future content for you guys, and it was all archived on my Twitter as well. So if anyone's out there, you know, actively searching for that concept art, it does exist out there, right? Even if it has become harder to find because, you know, the actual page it was on is just poofed out of existence, there are archives out there that exist. And of course, you know, I love archiving very vague things like this that, you know, may not interest everyone, but still interest people like me who want to know about that developmental stage of Fortnite. With that said, however, my name is FireMonkey. Hope you champs and champions enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider subscribing and support the content I create. And of course, I will catch you guys tomorrow with another YouTube video. I want to find a bot, or not a bot, but, you know, just a normal enemy to shoot here. So let me just go over here. Yeah, there we go. We killed the Axel that has been killing me all game. So with that said, peace out.